Hi. I remember the morning she left for that trip like it was yesterday. She had 3 suitcases for a 5-day vacation, each one stuffed with outfits she'd been saving for something special. The girls were picking her up in an Uber, she said, all giggles and sunglasses even though the sun wasn't up yet. I stood in the doorway holding my coffee, watching her go. She blew me a kiss, and for a split second, I thought, this is what trust looks like. I'd paid for it all, the flights, the hotel, the spa package they'd tacked on at the last minute. She called it a thank you trip for all my hard work lately. I believed her. We'd been married 7 years by then. Not perfect years, but steady ones. I'd learned to read her silences, and she'd learned how I liked my shirts folded. We had little rituals, Tuesday night takeout, Friday morning coffee on the porch. She never gave me a reason to question her, or maybe I just didn't look too closely. Love can make you selectively blind. The first 2 days she was gone, she sent pictures, her and the girls at the beach, her in a wide-brimmed hat by the pool, a boomerang of them clinking glasses over dinner. Every caption was sprinkled with hearts and miss-yous. I liked every post, commented something sweet, and went back to work. By day 3, the update slowed. A text in the morning, a photo of her legs on a lounge chair in the afternoon. She said the Wi-Fi was spotty. I didn't think much of it. The night before she came home, she called me from her hotel balcony. I could hear the ocean in the background, the murmur of distant music. She told me she couldn't wait to see me, that she was bringing back a surprise. I pictured some trinket from a boardwalk shop, maybe a shirt with a cheesy slogan. I went to bed that night feeling lucky. She walked through the arrivals gate the next afternoon, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine, skin kissed golden by the sun, hair in soft waves, that easy smile that used to undo me. I hugged her, breathed in the scent of coconut lotion, and felt a pang of wanting to freeze the moment. It wasn't until we got home that I noticed it. Just above the collar of her blouse, half hidden where her hair fell, darker than a shadow, rounder than a bruise. I froze. She caught me looking and brushed her hair back like she'd suddenly remembered something on the stove. "Oh," she said lightly. Must have been from my beach hat rubbing. But her voice had that quick, practiced brightness I'd heard before. Once, when she'd dented the car and claimed it happened in a parking lot. I didn't ask again, not then. Instead, I unpacked her bags while she showered, my hands moving through her clothes like I was afraid of what I might find. There was nothing, no stray receipts, no unfamiliar scents. Just neatly folded dresses and a bottle of sunscreen half empty. That night, lying in bed beside her, I kept glancing at that spot on her neck. The ceiling fan hummed. She drifted off easily, one arm across my chest. My mind, though, wouldn't rest. I told myself there had to be an explanation. But explanations don't make your stomach tighten or your thoughts circle the same image until it's burned into you. The tan faded in a few weeks, just like it always does. The mark on her neck disappeared in days. But the feeling, that stubborn knot in my chest, didn't go anywhere. I found myself replaying little moments. Her sudden enthusiasm for this trip, the way she'd been quieter on the phone toward the end, that look in her eyes when she spotted me at the airport. There was something there I hadn't seen before. Or maybe I had, and just hadn't wanted to name it. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I told myself I needed to be sure. So I started noticing things. The way she lingered over her phone at night. The new perfume she wore only when she said she was running errands. The way she seemed lighter somehow, as if carrying a secret she had no intention of sharing. And quietly, almost without meaning to, I began to plan. 2 weeks after she got back, life looked normal on the surface. Our routines intact, our conversations polite. But under it all, there was this unspoken distance. She'd laugh at something on her phone, turn it away, and when I asked what was so funny, she'd shrug and say, "Just the girls." I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. But the mind does strange things when it's been scratched by suspicion. I started noticing patterns, how she guarded her phone when she typed, how her errands grew longer, how she came home with that faint glow like someone had just made her feel seen in a way I hadn't lately. I wasn't innocent in all this either. The truth? I'd been coasting. Work had swallowed me whole, and I'd let later become my answer to everything she wanted us to do together. Weekend trip? Later. Cooking dinner together? Later. Maybe her tan and that mark on her neck were just consequences of me being half present. That thought hurt almost as much as the alternative. Then one Friday, She told me she was going out with her friend Danielle. Danielle's name had been coming up a lot lately. I offered to drop her off. She said no before I'd even finished the sentence. That night, she came home smelling faintly of cologne. Not mine. She noticed me notice, and without a word, went straight to the shower. The next morning, I told her I was thinking about taking a solo weekend away to clear my head. She smiled in that too sweet way and said, "Sure, you deserve it." I booked the trip, but it wasn't for me. It was for space for her to think I was gone, space for me to see what she did with it. While I was away, my car stayed in long-term parking, but I was in town. A private investigator I'd quietly hired texted me that first evening. She's not with Danielle. The photos came a few hours later. Her at a restaurant, leaning across the table, laughing in a way I hadn't seen in months. The man opposite her reached out and touched her wrist. Her smile didn't falter. The PI followed them to a hotel. The images stopped there. He said he didn't need to send the rest. He was right. I'd seen enough. When I walked back into the house Sunday night, she greeted me at the door like nothing had happened. Asked about my trip. I told her it was restful. I didn't mention the knot in my chest that had tightened into something sharper. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't even confront her that week. I just started making calls to my lawyer, my accountant, the bank. If she'd been building a secret life, I was about to build my own escape hatch. Only mine wouldn't be a secret for long, because the tan was fading, and so was my patience. It was a Thursday evening when I finally decided the pretending had run its course. She was on the couch, scrolling her phone, a glass of white wine in hand. The TV murmured in the background, but she wasn't watching it. I sat across from her, legal pad in my lap, the weight of the last few weeks pressing on me like a storm that had been waiting to break. "I think we need to talk," I said. Her eyes flicked up, wary for a split second before softening into that careful smile she wore when she wanted to control the tone. "About what?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just told her I knew. About the dinner, the hotel, the man whose cologne she'd brought home. I watched the warmth drain from her face, saw the instinctive reach for denial falter halfway. She didn't admit it outright, not in so many words. Instead, she leaned on the oldest crutch in the book, turning the blame sideways. "We've been distant. You've been so busy. I didn't mean for it to happen." Each sentence was a stone tossed in a river, ripples spreading but never reaching me. I didn't argue. I didn't list the trips I'd paid for, the quiet nights I'd spent waiting for her to come home, the parts of myself I'd shelved so she could shine. None of it mattered now. The decision had already been made. Maybe weeks ago, maybe months before I even noticed. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," I said, my voice steady. Her hand froze halfway to her wine glass. "We'll make this clean. Fair. But it's over." She stared at me like I'd just told her the world was ending. Then, almost unbelievably, she laughed. A small, disbelieving sound at first, then sharper, edged with something that felt like triumph. "You think you're walking away from me like this?" "I'm not walking," I said quietly. "I'm done running after someone who doesn't want to be caught." The weeks that followed were a blur of signatures, asset divisions, and silence. The tan had long since faded from her skin. Whatever thrill she'd been chasing had either gone cold or found someone else to occupy it. The day we signed the final papers, she arrived in heels and a summer dress, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She didn't look at me when she picked up the pen. She just signed, slid the document across the table, and waited for the clerk to confirm. That was it. 7 years condensed into a stack of paper and a handshake. The marriage faded like her vacation glow. But the divorce, the reality of it, settled into my bones, immovable. And unlike her tan, it wasn't going anywhere. Bye-bye.